Hi there, this is Afro Perspectives. Trump has just been told that there is no white genocide in South Africa. President Cyril Ramaphosa pulled off what I can only describe as a public relations coup. He played on Trump's favorite pastime of golf and brought golfers to the White House to do the sweet talking for him. The golfers are Annie Els and Retief Goosen. But wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me just explain to you the background to all of this. Donald Trump, for the past few years, has been telling anyone who cares to listen that white farmers are the targets of race killings in South Africa. In classic Trump style, full of exaggerations and outright misinformation, he showed Cyril Ramaphosa and his delegation right in the Oval Office of the White House a clip lifted from YouTube videos showing crosses lining up the P39/1 highway near Newcastle in South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal province. That clip is from 2020, just to give you the context. What is true, though, is that the clip is about murdered farmers. Yes, we do agree about that. The farmers who were murdered in this instance were Glenn and Vida Rafferty. That's the two of them in happier times. I have to agree that it was a tragic loss of life. Be that as it may, Trump made it appear as if those crosses marked mass graves on the site, which is just not true. In a public relations coup on Ramaphosa's part, he brought along Africa's richest man, Johann Rupert. Rupert blew Trump's argument apart and explained to Trump, who sat quietly on a couch. He gave his testimony that the deaths in South Africa were the result of a wave of violent crime and affected people of all races. And it's not just the case of targeted white farm murders. It's across the board, just like Rupert said. Johann Rupert gave the example of the New York of the 1970s to drive across his point and highlighted that the deaths of people in South Africa, not just farmers, is a problem of a runaway wave of crime, like I've said before. I'm not sure if Johann Rupert plans to run for office in South Africa. It seems he was not too pleased with the main opposition in South Africa, the Democratic Alliance, and used the party's rule in Western Cape province as illustrative of the crime wave South Africa faces. Johann Steenhuisen, leader of the Democratic Alliance, the main opposition in South Africa, was accused by Rupert of failing to halt the crime wave on the Cape Flats suburb just outside of Cape Town, where the murder rate is the highest in all of South Africa. So how did we get here? How did we get to this scenario where the most powerful man on the planet is running slides on a screen trying to show the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, that white farmers face what amounts to ethnic cleansing in South Africa? Well, that is the work of another South African billionaire, Elon Musk, this time. Musk runs the social media micro-blogging platform X, what everyone else used to call Twitter. And he has been the most effective at propagating falsehoods that white farmers in South Africa face a genocide. The conspiracy theory is centered on the idea that white farmers face a genocide in South Africa. It is a claim founded on falsehoods. The argument, at least from the point of view of those who propagate this theory, Musk being the most prominent of them, goes like this. Since the collapse of apartheid in the late 1980s, South African farmers have been the victims of a campaign of so-called coordinated violence aimed at seizing their land and then eliminating them. However, evidence of such a scheme, if one can put it that way, is scant, But how did we get to this scenario where the US president is at the forefront of propagating conspiracy theories? The explanation is something to do with how political campaigns are funded in the United States, especially Donald Trump's run for the White House in the last election cycle in 2023. Trump received a lot of money while running for president last year. I don't have the figures, but I have some names of tech billionaires who funded his campaign for the White House. They all grew up and they were educated in South Africa. They are known as the PayPal Mafia. Not that they are doing anything illegal, far from it, but because most of them worked for the tech company PayPal. They are David Sachs, who grew up in Cape Town and worked for PayPal and is now Trump's advisor on artificial intelligence. And then there is Roloff Botha, who also made it big with PayPal. Roloff Botha, for those familiar with the South Africa of the late 1980s and early 1990s, is the grandson of Pik Botha, the last foreign minister of white-ruled South Africa. Then there is Elon Musk himself, who grew up in a suburb in Pretoria and is the biggest cheerleader for President Trump. Then back to the conspiracy theory of a genocide of white South African farmers. It is actually the brainchild of the PayPal Mafia, and Trump is relying on advice from these tech billionaires on how to proceed in managing what they are calling a crisis for white Afrikaners in South Africa. Trump wholeheartedly believes in this conspiracy theory. Such a projection of South Africa to the rest of the Western world is damaging, to say the least. It is damaging to the image of South Africa as an investment destination. Investors, in the face of such bad publicity, are avoiding South Africa as an investment destination, like I've said above. Elon Musk has been open with his hostility towards Cyril Ramaphosa's administration, accusing them, among other things, that he has been denied an operating license for his Starlink company simply because he is not a black man. Trump is not only using the white genocide conspiracy theory to inflict reputational damage on South Africa, he is actually translating that conspiracy theories, those lies, into tangible policies. Consider this. 2 weeks ago, in the middle of May 2025, to be precise, Trump gave 59 South Africans of white Afrikaner background refugee status and gave them entry into the United States. It is not clear whether any of these 59 South Africans owned any piece of land in South Africa itself, nor have they faced any threats to their lives. The conspiracy theories peddled by the PayPal Mafia for Trump is just enough proof. But that is besides the point. The real point was to demonstrate to you, to the rest of the world, that South Africa is not safe for white people, which, to say the least, is a myth. It cannot be denied, however, that there is a problem of unfair access to resources in South Africa. Take this little inconvenient fact. Black Africans comprise 90% of the population of South Africa, while at the same time owning just 4% of the country's land. Most black South Africans are squeezed into shanty towns such as Khayelitsha on the edges of Cape Town and the Cape Flats mentioned by Johan Rupert above. For those black South Africans who live in the country's rural hinterlands, most are found on farms working for white bosses, while most rural South African blacks live in the former so-called homelands or Bandustans, in the language of apartheid, the architects of apartheid. Well, I think some of you might well at this point out that words mean different things to different people. And some might even go further and propose that the meaning of words is contextual. I know I should have started with explaining what a genocide is, But I think that does not rob any meaning to the whole false claims of white genocide in South Africa. For most people, genocide is an act committed with the intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. This destruction might be physical, as in the killing of members of a certain group, or through causing serious bodily or mental harm. This is how most sane people understand the term genocide, at least for those familiar with the 1948 Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. Now, besides Trump playing his set of slides in the Oval Office of the White House, there is no tangible evidence that any of these acts has been committed to any population group or community in South Africa, never mind whites of Afrikaans heritage. In response to the White House running away with this conspiracy theory about white farmers being the target for killings, South Africa's Minister of Police, Senzo Mshunu, revealed that in the past 12 months, there were 2 murders of farmers running commercial farms. And if I'm saying farmers running commercial farms, I mean white farmers. I would want to admit that any life is sacred, and no one would want to minimize the loss of even a single life. But in the context of the conspiracy theories being thrown around, does this in any way justify Trump's claims? I doubt. Even AfriForum, an organization in South Africa claiming to represent the interests of farmers, although contradicting Senzo Mshunu, it has also claimed that the real number is just 8 farmers. South Africa does not normally give a breakdown of crime statistics in terms of race, but this time Senzo Mshunu had to do so in the light of Donald Trump's wild claims about a white genocide. In fact, on the farms, the minority of murder victims are black farm workers. Senzo Mshunu disclosed that in the past year, 12 farm workers were killed. Well, the situation on the ground is that, as I have said above, it is actually black farm workers who are at the receiving end of the most violent acts of brutality. Now take the case of farm owners Willem Oosthuizen and Theo Martins Jackson. Those are the gentlemen in the clip I have loaded on the screen on there. The man being stuffed into the coffin is Victor Mloshwa, a farm worker. That's him with his family celebrating the jailing of his abusers. I understand that some of you who sit on the other side of the fence in this kind of debate are likely to throw at me accusations of gaslighting or even worse, race baiting. I will accept that this was an isolated incident and took place nearly 8 years ago, that is in 2017. But the point I'm trying to make here is that violent crime, just like Johan Rupert pointed out earlier above, pointed out to Trump, affects people of all walks of life in South Africa. I'm not sure what Trump and his advisors from the paper mafia will make of these statistics. One thing is for sure, though. There is an ideological motive behind all of these accusations. Even if Trump were to accept the statistics as empirical facts, I do not think South Africa would get even an apology from Trump. Thank you for taking time to follow this piece. If there is anything that I have got wrong or have failed to mention, please drop your comments below. We are only a small channel and your support is highly appreciated. So please subscribe and please don't forget to give me those likes. Thank you. Bye. Merci.